Okay, today I'm at Tote HQ in the heart of Theatre Land with Jamie Benson. Thanks very much, Jamie, for taking some time out to speak to me.
Not at all.
So you're Benson, the man that the Tote Punters all need to beat. And for those that don't know, tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, it's an initiative we started a couple of years ago, where we just basically we publish all my bets that I make, and I'm by no means a punting genius or anything like that. I'm just a normal punter that loves his racing, and we publish all my bets. And if you basically get a bigger P&L than me on the day, you scoop your share of the pot. So if I do my absolute bollocks, then you'll probably win about 10 quid. All you need to do is make a small profit and you make the money. But if I get a bit lucky and I win 200, 300 quid from my £100 bank, I can only bet £100, then you could win anything up to, I think our biggest beat Benson dividend was about 450 quid. For anyone who made, I think, £300 profit that day, they got an extra £400 for beating me. So yeah, it's basically just a different way of looking at a day's punting. And for better or worse, I seem to be the face of it for the tote. I think literally just came out of the fact that beat Benson was alliterative, and I felt eminently beatable, and people wanted to beat me because I've just got one of those faces, I think. But
Is that just for the big meetings, or is it a regular?
yeah, no. So it's basically all the big meetings throughout the season. On the flat, it's all the whirlpool meetings, and then on the jumps, it's all the main meetings you'd think of. Most of which are Saturdays, but then obviously you have the Cheltenhams and the DRFs of this world, and we'll run them every day of that. But yeah, it's just basically whenever there's good enough racing, we'll put it on.
And who's come out top, the Punters or Benson?
Always the Punters. Sometimes I do better than not, but I'm actually small up across all of the tournaments, which I didn't see coming, if I'm honest. I would have backed myself over the jumps, and I was small down, and I wouldn't have backed myself over the flat, and I'm medium up. So there you go. I mean, I don't even know how my own punting is. So.
Right, we'll talk about the tote a bit more later.
Yeah.
But you started your working life as a city boy. So I've always looked at the city really as the sort of more respectable rich man's betting ring.
Yeah, I can definitely see why you'd think that. I think that's probably what attracted me to it. Yeah, in the sort of trying to do good by my parents, trying to be a professional, trying to be a grown up. Really, I thought that was probably where I should go. And I enjoy the analytical side of it. I didn't necessarily always enjoy the subject matter. I've always been interested by risk and risk management. It sounds a bit of a wanky turn of phrase, but always enjoyed the idea of taking risks and the rewards that could come with that. And the city is a great example of that. But so is punting.
Yeah, but you did the grown up thing. You went to university.
Yeah.
And studied economics, which I suppose is the go-to degree for
Exactly.
city. So
yeah.
you stuck it all out, and then how were you when you started in the city?
So I was 21 when I started in the city, worked in the city for sort of 6 years, and that was actually how I came to meet Alex Frost, who founded the UK Tote Group and bought the Tote, and I got into working for the Tote through Alex by supporting him in the transaction to buy the business and things like that. So, I can't entirely look back on my time in the city with regret, because it opened the doors that allowed me to work for the Tote. So.
Okay, well, I want to go back to your university days, because as always, I ask people to tell me a bit about themselves, and my sort of ears and my eyes pricked up a bit when it said that you paid for your university drinking, and we all assume that that's quite copious.
I think you can tell by the state of me that it was copious.
But you paid for it by punting, so you must have been quite a good punter. So what were you betting on when you were at uni?
Yeah, so it was PGA Tour golf actually, and it was it sounds very grandiose to be like, I paid for my university by doing it, but it was really just I had so much time that I probably should have been studying, but I seemed to spend it all staying up late and watching PGA Tour golf. And it was at a time where on the PGA Tour website there was all these stats available, whether it was strokes gained or some of the more niche stats, scrambling and putting and things like that. But there was plenty of intangible stuff which wasn't available. Loads of it is now, but at the time it wasn't. And it's things like how players played on certain green types, how they played in the wind, how they played on certain course setups, classical or parkland courses, how they played in certain regions and times of year and things like that. And basically I just kept a little spreadsheet. You could probably call it a glorified model But no, it was just a spreadsheet really with so around the 200, 225 players that were playing regularly on the tour, and just a rating from 1 to 10 on each of them, how they played on bent grass, on bent putter, on putter, on Bermuda, all that kind of stuff, how they played in the wind. That was just straight up 1 to 10, and basically just gave everyone a rating on this more sort of nebulous these more nebulous concepts. And the idea was just to try and find players who might come into it looking like they're not playing well, but they've been in unsuitable conditions, and combining that with maybe players that are going under the radar as a good fit but aren't big names. And the idea was then to find value in the sort of bigger prices on the PGA Tour, and just basically play them. And I had a few accounts doing it through that. It was only small, like I wasn't doing it for hundreds of pounds, I was doing it for tens of pounds. And yeah, no, it was great. And then I just sort of ran out of time to put the hours in. And also, a lot of this information is available now. You know, there are great sites like golfbettingsystems.com, which apparently I should now be on an affiliate fee for, having just mentioned it. But yeah, it's all available. So yeah, no, it was great. It was something that I used in interviews for hedge fund trader roles when I didn't have the actual skill set and the actual experience. I was like, oh well, maybe you'll accept this, you know, half baked model in place.
So when you say it's on spreadsheets, I mean, I know very little about computers and things. So
yeah.
Is it an automated type thing, or was it literally just on a spreadsheet and you had to put your finger along and see who came out on top?
So I mean, all of the fields really were just entered by me. The sort of end result, I would just type in a weighting for each of the categories, and then that would spit out a ranking. But most of the stuff was just entered manually with a few formulas and stuff like that. It really wasn't high tech, you know, but it sort of did the job.
I mean, I'm assuming you suddenly gathered a whole lot of mates.
Yeah.
Was it ever something that you thought there might be something in this long term?
Yeah, I did. I thought about it, but if I'm honest, it started to take the joy out of it a bit. I thoroughly enjoy being right, and punting for me is the ultimate proof of that, because you know you're putting your money where your mouth is. But for me, I also love punting because I love having a bet. Like for me, it's genuinely like one of my biggest leisure activities. You know, if I'm watching the football down the pub with mates, like I'll have a bet on it, not because I think I'm going to win, just because I'm going to have more fun watching the game by doing it. So it slightly took that joy out of it for me, and yeah, I was happy enough to leave it behind, as good as it was for that period.
When you said a lot of that information is now available on there, and you gave the website I mentioned, does that mean it's now been extremely devalued?
Yeah, there's still differences there, but a lot of the pro tipsters now, you know, you look at likes of Ben Coley and people like that, a lot of them will have a similar approach to punting, and they put up, you know, and they said put up horses, they put up these golfers who are sort of under the radar or might be valued because of X, Y, Z. So it's just like everything else in all these betting markets. It's become a bit more crowded. People have become a bit smarter, and the market's just a bit more right.
Would it still work now, what you were doing, if you were just doing it yourself?
Probably small. There definitely wouldn't be the size of edge that there was, but there's still markets. You know, fixed odds prices are still markets fundamentally, and they still overvalue recency bias and recognition bias. You know, any big name golfer will be a shorter price than they should be because Joe Bloggs in the street in the betting shops recognises them, and you know, under bet, underknown punters. That's not even a turn of phrase. Underknown golfers, what will be overpriced.
Now, where did you get your computer skills? I suppose these days in school everybody learns computer to a certain extent. Is that were you a boffin on computers?
No, still not. A bit of YouTubing, a bit of hoping for the best, and nowadays we've got this amazing girl called Katie Weld who works with us, who did engineering at Oxford and now is wasted working in a betting company. So I just do Control-Alt-Weld and chuck it over the fence to her, and she figures it out.
Now, the city, you said you were drawn to it from you want to make your parents happy, or whatever. It's often seen as a bit of a closed shop to get into the city.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was your route in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fully understandable why. Nepotism has been rife in the city and many industries for years, and the city's no different. I mean, I got in by applying for an internship at a sort of small equity research business, got that internship, and then they offered me a full-time job once I left. It definitely helped that like I did work experience when I was 17 through connections of my dad and things like that. Like I would be mad to say that I had the same chance as you know, I went to public school, like as someone out of the state school education system. You know, I've been very fortunate with all those sorts of opportunities. But ultimately, the city is fundamentally meritocratic. If you aren't good enough, you won't do it. So definitely, there were doors that were open to me that probably wouldn't have been open to everyone. But you still have to walk through them, and you still have to walk the walk. So, yeah, no, I was fortunate, but yeah, it's still meritocratic.
And it's, I mean, very similar to the betting ring, as in you study the form.
Yeah.
You know, the form.
Yeah.
You make financial decisions on the basis of your research, and then your firm profit or loss on the back of that. So,
yeah,
is it fundamentally the same?
There are definite similarities, and you get massive read across in the types of characters. Well, certainly traditionally in the city, types of characters, the city has changed more to being significantly more model and algorithm driven, and very much a data science approach rather than a sort of feel and touch and risk loving approach. So it's gone from risk loving to risk avoidance. I think the punting world, especially the pro punting world, is going that way as well. It's sort of the natural progression, I guess, isn't it, to move from inside info and sort of you know, whispers and all that kind of stuff to just pure trading on knowns and finding your edge by being smarter than everyone else, not by knowing more. So yeah, no, it's definitely a worthy comparison, but there are still differences, I'd say.
I interviewed Bob Cooper a while back, Sir Bob, and he started out in the city.
Yeah.
And he said most floors had their own bookmaker.
Yes.
But his was disgusted when he asked him for £2.50 each way. I mean, was there quite a big punting on the horses and stuff, sort of?
Kind of.
Culture?
I mean, with the greatest respect to Sir Bob, one of the great broadcasters, we worked in the city in slightly different eras, and you know, there's still a big punting culture, but it's, I would say, more so football, and the horses, people Cheltenham, Ascot, they'd love a tip, and that was sort of where I came in, and I used to sort of write up little blurbs for every day of Ascot and every day of Cheltenham, but realistically, like, the general popularity of racing, yeah, it's slightly moved away. The appetite for betting was still there, but racing less so, more so football, golf, that kind of thing. The golf actually came in handy. I was able to help a few people out there.
Was that career progressing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, well I certainly wasn't going to do it by being good at my job.
Right, but your mind was already on the racing and not
Yeah.
the FT index. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah.